thank you for being here. Some others might trickle in and they will miss the beginning. They're lost. And then you will have to trickle out. But thanks for coming. I hope you picked up some of the information of some of the other programs that are happening in the Muzeo and in this building in particular. And if you know of other programs that you would like to see in this building, let me know, because that's kind of my role is as the community outreach program coordinator. That's a mouthful, but that's basically what I do. So we're delighted to have Loretta. And as you walked in, you probably saw some wonderful, colorful knitting as they were doing a yarn bombing, leading your way here. They'll finish that next week. And but you're here to hear Loretta, so off you go.
So welcome. First of all, okay, I know you're a quilter already, so how about you guys? No. Artists? Interesting. Artists? No. You just came to see me. Exciting. Okay. Well, the name of my lecture is taking it to the next dimension. So what I'm going to be talking about is taking a quilt from the flat, two-dimensional, all the way up to sculptural pieces. So it's a little bit of quilting, it's a little bit of art, combining everything together and just having fun with it. So I'm going to start with the real quilt. So yes, I do real quilting. I don't just do art quilts. No, good, I got it. So this, it's kind of hard to show because it's like, this is a king size quilt. This is the back. The back. Oh, that's the back. That's the front.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, this was a Christmas present for something very special. Who was standing in the back of the room. Oh my gosh. So yes, I do regular quilts, but my focus is more on art quilts. So this is a self-portrait piece. I called it Mirror, Mirror. And I started doing, this is just standard quilting, just the standard stippling. It's called stippling, so you can see where it goes all over. That's called stippling, or meander stitching. It has a bunch of different quilting names. But basically what I want to show here is that you can do a two-dimensional piece and give it more dimension by doing the perspective, showing the window. There's actually screen here. So it looks like there's a window screen, and then the corners. So they're actually sticking out of the frame. So it's just a little hint of dimension, but it takes it away from being just the flat two-dimensional type piece. So that's one example of that.
I have a question.
Sure.
How did you get the face in the mirror?
The face is actually a piece of fabric that got printed on. Yes. So I had a photographer take a bunch of pictures of me until I got the one that was at exactly the right angle so I could look back at myself. Yes. Yeah, this actually, the story behind this piece, this was a real photograph. You can see November 1967. This was my birthday, my 7th birthday, and this was the day that my hair was cut. Completely, like as short as yours. Yeah. So that was commemorating that event. Yes.
Traumatic?
I was just going to say, happy or together? You can tell.
Yeah, never again. I will never do that again. Okay, so this next piece is another one where it's still a flat piece, but there is a little bit of dimension where you get the keys popping out of the frame. And then with all of the thread work, you've got just a little bit adding more dimension. It's not a lot, it's just a hint. This one is called In the Pits. Okay, I'll tell you the story. So the reason it's called In the Pits is the view from the orchestra pit. So you are staring at your sheet of music. There's the music that's fallen to the floor during the performance. Piano, keyboard is typically to the left of the orchestra. This is the curtain and the footlights to the stage, the rest of the orchestra, and then the music flowing out to the audience. Yeah. By the way, You are perfectly welcome to take pictures, I do not mind.
Okay.
However, if you post them online, just please include my name. We have another person, yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Sorry, I was just trying to find a space to park.
You look vaguely familiar, why do you?
Sunshine Silks.
Oh, hello. It's like out of context, it's like,
Exactly.
you know.
Right.
Oh, thank you for coming.
I'm glad I got to be here.
Yay. Okay, so where was I? Pictures. Pictures, yes, pictures. So yeah, you're welcome to take all the pictures you want. I do have a lot of in-process photos, like for the self-portrait one, I have how I made it, how I did the applique of myself, taking it from the photograph all the way through. I also have a special page that I set up for you guys. And I forgot to print out little cards for you. But it's got a bunch of links on it. And so the links will take you to different places. Like I have some free ebooks right now that are free for this weekend. And I'll tell you about those in a little bit.
Can you send me that?
I can send you that. I can actually. Okay, next one.
That's really pretty.
Thank you.
I think you made that in a card too, didn't you?
Yes, I do have this one.
Yeah, that's really good.
Come on in. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so next one. This is one of my very early pictorial pieces. Actually, this was my very first pictorial piece. And again, it's still very flat, still very two-dimensional. However, adding the applique on the front just adds that bit of dimension. Now, I want to show you the back, because I know you, especially quilter time, were you guys quilters at all?
I
You did quilter? You were here last weekend, weren't you?
No.
No, you weren't. Okay, you look like somebody who was.
I could.
Okay, here's the back.
Oh,
You see how much stitching gets done on this? There's a lot of thread work, especially in here, that just makes the whole thing pop out the way, before I quilted this, it looked very flat, it looked dead. And then once I added all of this, it just popped it out. So that's one of the ways that you can add dimension is by a lot of thread work. So that's one. Okay, next.
Can you just turn it back a little bit?
Sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sometimes
That's pretty
it's
selling
yeah,
itself.
sometimes the
Yeah.
backs end up more interesting than the front.
That's really cool.
Okay, so next one. Okay, again, there isn't a lot of dimension on this one.
You notice a theme.
Yes.
So just take-
We're gonna get away from the music for a little bit in a while, but most of what I do is a music theme. I'll tell you a little story. Years and years ago, 1997 actually, I got into the Art Fair Festival for the first time. And so for the first few years that I was doing that show, I decided I was going to do a different theme every year just to keep my work fresh and interesting and different. And so one year it was music, another year it was cats, and then it was dragons, and then it was ocean, and and all these different things. And I started noticing that people were asking me, "Is this your first year in the show?" And then the light bulb started going off, and it's like, okay, I've got to stick with one theme so people recognize me, because they weren't recognizing me, so I stopped doing that. So music is now my main theme. I still do other things on occasion for very specific reasons, or just because I want to, but most of it is music. So anyway, back to this one. This is a piece of handmade fabric, which is very much like what I'm wearing here. And I will show you later how I make this. I have a little sample. It's bits of yarn, and I stitch it together. It takes hours to make these things. It's just very, very labor intensive, but as you can see, I mean, isn't that gorgeous? Yeah. So that is what this is. And There are a lot of ways to make this more dimensional. I didn't on this one because I forgot. I was actually going to put, where is it? Here it is. Anybody know what this is? Foam. It's the craft foam you buy at Michael's.
Yeah.
I use this a lot, and I will show you what I used it on. Okay, where did it go? Oh, there it is. So that's the foam. And then I do little, these were my Christmas cards this year. I'll show you. There's the Christmas card. Isn't that cute? Yeah. So I sent these out with a little note saying, just put a little bit of glue right in the center, and I put a note in it that said, peel the snowflake off your Christmas ornament. And so I just did, different colors. This is the pink. This is the fabric that the pink ones came off of, so you can see kind of what it looks like before I've done anything with it. There's all the cutouts. So this stuff right here, that was the background that I used. And then I covered it up with the different bits of yarn to get the colors and the combinations that I wanted. So I do tons of this stuff. Anyway, that I could have done the foam backing with the treble clef. I just forgot to. I was going to, and then, these things happen. Okay, so next, where am I? All right, we were talking about thread work. I actually jumped ahead of myself. This was the next one I was supposed to show you. All right, thread work. This is hyper-dimensioned with thread.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Wow.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
So you can see how
From the
much.
distance, it looks like a painting.
Yes.
That's exactly the concept. This is called thread painting, and it takes a ton of time to do this because it is just so
What's a
much
ton of time?
So much thread that goes into this. It was about, how did I start this? It was about 2 weeks worth of work. Yeah. Now, that was working almost every day, and it was, I had to get it done really quick, so I didn't quite finish down here as much as I wanted to because I was on a deadline because this was a birthday present. And I finished it literally 5 minutes before the person arrived. So, anyway, that's thread work.
Question,
Yes,
what did you use for your foundation?
I'm going to show you that right now, because I have sample.
And did you use a darning foot on your sewing machine?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm going to show you something else first, and don't start with glue. I love molasses chips. I end up with a lot of molasses chip boxes. I want to show you what I do with the empties.
What a great idea.
Isn't that a
That is
wonderful
such a
idea?
Great idea.
And they fit perfectly. And so what I did is I took several of the boxes and I glued them together, and so I have little drawers. I cut the end off, and it's like little drawers for my thread.
Very clever.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the work in progress. Oh, by the way, for the Van Gogh, that was my working drawing.
Actually, your sketch.
Yeah, my sketch, actually not even a sketch, it was a computer, photoshopped.
Do you color them in like we do our quilt fabric colors to have a color chart?
I'm going to show you kind of what I do. Okay, so here's work in progress. That's the photo I'm working from. This is from down in Dana Point. I took this picture a couple years ago. So that's the photo. There's my photoshopped. So I need it more like almost a coloring book. So I just get the basic lines for what I'm trying to do. Okay? And then here is the work in progress. So you can see I've started doing, I've got the water, I have part of the boat, all the white parts of the boat are done. They're not stitched yet though, so you can see the difference between the stitched part. Yeah. and the non-stitched part.
Oh, yeah.
See that?
The texture is the little pieces that you're cutting up and putting on there.
Yes.
And what are those
So
little
this
pieces?
is stitched though, right?
That is all
Yes.
stitched. The water is all stitched and done.
And what about color changes or using variation?
Actually, no.
Just color
It was
changes.
just color changing. So what I'm doing is the water is 8 different fabrics. What I'm trying to do is like a brush stroke. And so all of these pieces, I don't know if you can see very well. There's a good one there. So like this piece right here, see that? It's just a little tiny, see that's part of the
Oh,
one.
okay.
See,
Right.
just see how it's just a little tiny shape.
And then how are you adhering that?
So what I do is I'll take the different fabrics that I want to use. So I had 8 different white fabrics. And I put, I happen to have a product called Misty Fuse, which isn't my favorite for this application, but it's what I had. And so I just ironed that onto each of the pieces of fabric. I took my scissors and I cut just little tiny brush strokes worth of fabric. And then I took my iron and just slowly started layering everything together. And then once I get it to this stage, then I'm gonna do all of the stitching. And that's gonna be with the white thread. And I'll just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with the darning foot on. For those of you that aren't sewers, the darning foot is a way that you can control the sewing machine and sew in any direction that you want without having to, go back and forth or just, be controlled by the machine, the way the machine wants to go. So that's how you get all of the, odd sort of stitching that you can see on a lot of the work that I do.
So you're not actually using a computerized kind of machine to
No.
do this?
No, not at all, yeah. No, my machines are all older. I do not own one of the newfangled fancy, I don't like them
I know,
actually.
because a friend of mine was telling me I'd set it all up and then she walks away and the machine does the thing.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not possible. There's nothing that I do that I could do with a computerized machine, because I need to see exactly where the stitches are going. The machine is not gonna put the stitches where I want them. So, yeah, that's not gonna work.
But what happens if you make a mistake, for instance, or, is that something that's easy to correct, or
It
to just
depends.
kind of make it work?
It depends on the mistake. It really depends on the mistake. There is a saying in the quilting world, if you can see the mistake from a galloping horse, then you need to fix it. So most of the time, I either just sew over it, or maybe add a piece of fabric on top of it and cover it up, or I just ignore it. And it just really depends on the mistake. It depends.
Yeah, you must have been listening to my grandmother. She always used to say, a blind man on a galloping horse won't know the difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
But if you walk in the room, you see it every time, fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the one I always fix,
Yeah.
the one that bothers me the most.
Actually, I was on a program, this is several years ago, called Simply Quilts, when it still existed on Home and Garden TV.
remember that.
Yeah, and they came to my gallery. I used to own an art gallery, for those of you who don't know. They came to my gallery, and they filmed me. It was 5 hours worth of them filming for like a 2-minute segment. It was pretty horrendous, but one of the things that they did was they had me kind of I had a 2-room gallery, so they had me in one room, and then in the other room, they were filming like this with the camera, going over the piece. And they had it magnified, like 5 times. And so they get down to this one spot, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a mistake there. I never saw it because, you don't sit there with a magnifying glass on your quilts, so.
And that's the same with silk. I always think if if the dye has bled, oh no.
Yeah, I know, and you don't need to worry about
That's
it.
the serendipitous beauty of
And,
it.
the thing is.
It's art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's art.
Those mistakes are part of the piece. It wanted to be there, so just
Exactly.
work with it. Unless it's something just glaringly bad, like you sew something onto itself, which it shouldn't be. I mean, that's a little different. Yeah. Okay, where am I? All right. Now, we're going to get into some collage stuff. are completely flat, two-dimensional pieces. These are collage. I do a lot of these. They're just bits of fabric that, you know, if you do, you know, cut out the magazines and collage it together, that's exactly what this is. But it's fabric instead of being paper.
And you made some of those fabrics.
I did not. These are all commercially available fabrics. And by the way, this is the class that I will be teaching here next month in doing these exact things, yes.
February 14th.
February 14th.
11 to 1.
11 to 1, yes. However, what I want to show you,
That's Valentine's Day.
this is
Early so you can do your Valentine's Day stuff.
Yeah, right.
Everything's good enough.
This is the same thing. It's also collage, but I have added a found object.
It gives it.
And it gives it dimension.
I like that. That's
So
so
we've now added, so you can do a lot of things with shadow boxes where you take, you know, you can even just take a simple photograph and you go to Michael's and you go to the department where they, you know, the floral department where they have all the grapes and the fruit and the birds and the whatever, and you can just take an element, put it into that shadow box and add it in and give it dimension. And it just makes things so much more interesting, doesn't it?
It's simple, but yet.
It's very effective, yeah, and it's very elegant, and I sell a lot of these, although not this year because I didn't have time to make any. That's a good thing. Okay, so next,
Loretta, where do you find little trinkets like that?
Michael's,
Okay.
or, you know, online.
Okay.
Those happen to be, the music ones that I use happen to be Christmas ornaments. Christmas ornaments are another good thing to use.
Okay.
So if you get miniature, any type of miniatures work, magnets, there's tons of, you know, any little tiny toys, any little tiny things work really well.
Costume jewelry.
Yes, I'll get into that in a minute too. Okay, so now we are going to start getting into, actually I've got this on that. We're going to get into some more dimensional stuff now. We're starting to,
Oh, that's cute.
okay.
Beautiful.
What happened with this one is a friend of mine was throwing these curtains away. And I was like, I'll take them. Didn't know what I was going to do with them. And then it was one of those, just made itself. The title of this one is It's Curtains for You.
Oh, that's
So you can see it is actually a full window. I found, you know, cloud fabric, and then there's the flower fabric. And then I just found, you know, clip art, and I found the cat that was, you know, climbing, and put it on. So there's that one.
But I love that the backs of your stuff is also so beautiful.
Yeah, this,
You know?
it's all cat fabrics.
It's beautiful, it's perfect for that.
Okay, here's another one. This is for my cat ears. This one's called I Didn't Do It. This is a true story, by the way. At the time, I had white carpeting, and it was teal blue paint, and it was all over my white carpeting through most of my house. He didn't go in the living room, thankfully, but the rest of the house was just completely covered with this stuff. So here, what I did, you know, this is actually off. I mean, it's not completely attached, so there's some dimension there. The cat is a piece of fur that was cut out, same with these guys. This is the same black fur, actually. So that gives the dimension there. This, I was trying to get the look of wet paint. So we've got the paint that's dried, and then just the little bits of wet, and then more wet, lots more wet. And then if you look at the footprints, these are the metallic here going down to the non-metallic as they're drying. Isn't that fun? So, all right, we're going on to.
You could add a paint roller on
I almost did.
With that little furry stuff?
Yeah, I almost did that, and then I stopped, because it's like, it didn't really need it, because I wanted to focus on what happened. Okay, so next, now, this is actually, it is a quilt. It's called Hearts of Fire. If you notice, there are actually 7 hearts in the background of this. Yeah, they're kind of buried, but they're in there. What I did to make this is I actually made an entire quilt out of this red orange without the hearts in it. The hearts got it separately. I'll show you the back in a minute. I cut it up, which was kind of weird at first, because I actually literally made the quilt and I chopped it to bits, spread it out, put it on the netting, and then stitched it back down again.
And what kind of netting?
This is actually bridal netting, bridal tulle.
Really? It's sturdy enough?
It is sturdy enough. Now let me show you the back so you can see. So you can see all the hearts. You can see all the quilting.
This is awesome. I love this one.
Now the other interesting thing about this piece is the frame. And what I did with the frame is I went to my framer and he gave me some old crummy frames that he was throwing away. And I took batting and I cut it about 2 inches wide and I wrapped the entire frame with batting. Then I wrapped the whole thing again with this silk, and this silk is actually in the piece, so it does match. So I wrapped it with the silk, and then I finally wrapped it with this metallic cording stuff, and then just wrapped the whole thing around, so it is actually kind of squishy. It's a great way to get rid of or to use a frame that you don't like.
So how did you
Yeah.
mount the?
I hand stitched the whole thing. That was the longest part of this
I
process.
understand.
Oh,
that.
I see that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
How did you hand stitch onto, oh, you
I
hand stitched it
hand
after?
stitched it after I,
Instead of stapling?
instead of stapling it, yeah. Yeah.
Would the stapling tear it?
You know, I don't know. I didn't think to try to
It would give
staple
it
it. I didn't
tensile.
I didn't want to do that because I had more control, and you know, you can see if I squish it, and actually what happened is the frame broke. Yeah, so, and it didn't break because it got pulled, it got broken because of being in my car going to shows. The other thing that I want to point out on this is the way that I hang it. There's these 2 little hook things here. If you do any small quilts or any small type pieces, drapery tiebacks, these things just hook right into your fabric, and you can hang lightweight things with them. They're very, very handy to use. I use them a lot.
And they're called drapery
Tiebacks,
Okay.
yeah. They sell them in the upholstery department,
Okay.
and they're just these nice little hooks with a little, loop on them. And they work really great. So that's this piece. This piece was done exactly the same way. Show you this one. And this, these both look really good against a white or a light color wall.
Oh, yeah, it really pops.
Yeah, it really pops it out. So this one is called Pieces of a Dream.
I love the way you coordinated it just frames it so beautifully, it makes it unified.
Yeah, and then this is kind of fun because it's starting to do the fuzzy thing. And one of the problems with this one, if you remember the talk from last week, and we were talking, last week the teacher was talking about quilts and
The silks and what?
how the materials in the quilts would degenerate over time. This blue was a lot brighter.
Oh. So it's fugitive in color.
Yes. Yeah, and certain fabrics are, and certain fabrics,
And it was all because of the
the way that they were made.
Morton, is that what she called it?
That's great.
Yes, it was,
Mordant,
it was
yeah.
Morton.
Mordant that goes
Yeah, that goes
into the
into-
making of
Yeah.
the color.
Guys missed a great lecture.
It was
so
so
good.
it was
It was
really
really
fabulous.
Okay, so there's that.
Those are just
All right.
beautiful.
Now we're gonna get into something a little weird. Okay. recycled art exhibit.
Yes.
What this is shredded paper.
Yeah.
And it's actually, this is called junk mail, because I took all my junk mail and I shredded it, and I literally sewed it together. I do not recommend doing this. I broke at least 24 needles, literally. I went through a box of needles making this, because it is just very difficult to sew through. And I also ended up using metallic thread with this. And for those of you who have used metallic thread, you know how difficult it is to do. And trying to sew on paper with metallic thread, I will never do this again. It was insane. But I do like the effect. It was just kind of fun and different. But you know, this is a dimensional piece. I mean, it sticks out. You can stick your hand in there. I can put stuff in there if I want to. And you know, it's got a lot of texture to it. And it was just kind of fun to do.
Well, the recycled art project is coming back in April, so.
Okay, well, here we go.
I don't have to do anything else.
For you. Okay, so there's that. Okay, what am I talking about next? Oh, titles. Okay, that's one thing I do. Where is it? I do a lot of, I play with titles a lot. Now, yes, this is a very dimensional piece because it's got the nice little keyboard sticking out, and it's got the feather that sticks out. So the title of this came before the piece was created. And I wanted to do this particular title. I wasn't quite sure what to do, but as soon as I thought of it, and then it was like feather, of course. So anybody have any ideas?
Manuscript.
No, wrong direction.
Red feather.
What do feathers do? No, it's not that
Oh,
it's
float.
red.
Floating feather.
Tickle.
Tickle the ivories.
Got it.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, tickling the ivories. I do a lot of, some artists will start with the piece and then get the title. I 90% of the time come up with the title first and then make the piece to go with the title. And this is one of them. This was one of them. I have the title first. A lot of them are that way. I don't know why, I just work that way.
Loretta, what did you say is the title of this one right here with the teal?
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
That's cute.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna get into now we have some real fun here. Actually, I'm gonna take these down, get them out of the way first, because we want to focus on the next piece. And the next piece is very dimensional. And the piece after that, I'm going to need you.
Oh, okay.
All right. This piece.
Oh, wow.
Oh my. Pirates of the Caribbean.
I call it treasure.
Treasures,
Cute.
yeah, treasures.
How cute.
This one
See the,
Look at that, but
you see the dragon?
is,
Yeah.
this is called, it's mine, all mine.
Oh, that's very good.
This is all found objects. This piece went to the Houston International Quilt Festival. Actually, I've had several pieces in various quilt festivals, but this one went to Houston several years ago. They had a special exhibit called Encrustations, and it was specifically for pieces that had just tons of stuff on it, and so this was in there. This piece got made. All right, Carol, I need you now. Let's see, how are we gonna do this? No, we're gonna take you outside.
Okay, all right.
And then you can come back and entrance. Okay, do you want me to take this? No, you're fine. There we go. Keep it closed. Okay, perfect. Come on.
You ready for me?
Yes, we are ready for you. All right.
Oh, whoa.
So, what we have here is we have the gold dragon. And this is velvet, by the way. It is a metallic velvet, which is incredibly hard to find. I have looked for years and years and years, and I had this little tiny piece of it, and it completely got used up on this. And then the other side, we have, no, Yeah, oh, no, right here. So we've got the silver dragon on this side, and if we turn around, we've got the moon and the castle tower.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Hold
now,
on.
we open up. Now we have the dragon's treasure.
Oh,
wow. So on this side, there is the sword, and on that side is the shield from the night that the dragons ate.
Oh, wow. And it's not,
Not as heavy.
Yeah, look up and smile.
Yeah, look at this. So we get the whole effect. There we go.
Wow. You may have trouble getting this back.
Yeah, this piece has been in quite a few fashion shows.
And it fits it perfectly, so.
You'll need the back again?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And hold it out.
Hold it out.
Hold it out.
Really.
There you go.
Perfect.
Stop. Hold on 1 second.
That's amazing. How long did that take, Mary?
Months.
I bet.
This is months.
That was a huge
Because
project.
there's so much hand sewing on this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we only had a few minutes, so we wanted to stop in, but we can't stay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before you leave, you want to write down the links so you can get the,
and then come on the 14th when she teaches the other.
Do you have anything about the 14th?
It's on the website.
That's what she just said, yeah, okay.
That's on your calendar.
Can I see the badge?
the shyartist.com
Wow.
/ and Muzeo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch of rare.
I once brewed a Garibaldi veil
Right now, so.
Yeah.
It's on needle
that
felting,
way.
so that's my way to
Very nice.
Thank you so much.
It was really thank you for this. Anyway, with all the stuff on it.
It's like those ball gowns at the Oscars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The story is, there used to be, well, it's actually, it used to be called the Fairfield Fashion Show, now it's the Bermina Fashion Show, because they took it over. And it's for wearable art, and I tried to get into it a couple times, this is one of the pieces that I tried to get in with.
And they didn't take it?
No.
Wow.
And what is the name of it again?
It's now called the Bermina Fashion Show.
Bermina.
Like the machines, like the sewing
machines.
machines. You have to be invited into this show, so it's one of those types. And I do know somebody that was invited in, and they do these just incredibly elaborate things that take, like a whole year to make, that kind of thing. Anyway, this was one of the pieces that I made to try to get into that show. And I had this hanging in my gallery, and one of my collectors came in one day, and she saw it, she just absolutely loved it. She didn't buy it, but she loved it. She came back a couple weeks later, and she brought me this box, and the box was just stuffed with all of this.
Oh, wow.
So this got made from what she gave me after seeing the coat, because I couldn't add any more to the coat. The coat was done. It's like, I'm not putting it right. And so this is what came out. So that was kind of a fun little.
So you have to be invited to that fashion show to go and see it?
Oh, no, not to see it, to be in it.
What if you want to just see it?
It goes around the country.
Okay, so just look it up online?
Yeah.
And it's, how do you spell B-U-R?
Bermina.
N-I-N-A.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the sewing machine.
Okay.
Okay, so, where am I? Okay, now we're going to go into some more dimensional stuff here. I do a lot of art shows, so my stuff gets hung in different ways.
Oh, how pretty.
Okay, it's a little mush because it's been in the bag for a while. This one is called Everything's Coming Up Roses. Again, this is another one that I did my title first. Now, any of you that have ever done the paper roses or the fabric roses, where you just take a strip of paper and you twist it up, that's what these are. And they're all music, everything here is some sort of music fabric, because again, I'm going with my theme. The leaves, all of these leaves, what they are is fabric, just music fabric. I took a product called Heat and Bond, which is an iron-on fusible, and I took 2 layers of the fabric, fused them together with a piece of wire in between them, and then just did some satin stitching down the center and down onto the wire, and all the way onto the wire. So there's actually green thread all the way onto the wire, and that way I can move and bend and shape them. Isn't that fun?
And the clouds are pretty too, because even though they're drooping, it's like we've been in the sun all day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little thirsty.
That's right.
Okay, so that's Bermina. Yeah. I'm always trying to find interesting backing fabrics. It just depends on what I have available at the time and how big of a piece I need. Okay, so this is going into my fish shears.
Oh, I love it.
This is one of the few that I did not name before the piece got made. This one is just simply called Garibaldi in Kelp. This was one of the pieces that they showed on the Simply Quilts program. And they just kind of did the nice slow pan over it. Now, this is a lot of dimension. I've got the leaves, the kelp fronds that are sticking out. I've got the little bit of metallic to give the glitter of the underwater. The hold fast for the kelp plant. This is a whole bunch of tubes of fabric that I stuffed and then stitched down so it looks like it's got all of that going. Down here, now these are really squished, and these are macrame cord. And it was kind of cool because the inside core, the macrame cord is white and it frayed on the ends, and so you get kind of that frayed look, so it looks like a sea urchin. The fabric down at the bottom, the ocean, this is all collage. However, what I did with it, you're familiar with smocking. You remember the old technique that it hasn't been around in a while, but yeah, okay, where you do the little tiny pleats and hand sew them together, and that's called smocking. This is a freeform version of that, where I take the sewing machine, I dial up the tension, and so what it does is when you take the stitch, it just kind of does that, it puckers the fabric, and it just gives it a lot of texture. And so that's what got done for the ocean floor. And then the very last thing is, there's all the Garibaldi, this guy down here. Garibaldi are first of all, they are the state fish in California, if you didn't know that, but they also squeak when they mate. They make this little squeaky sound, so it's actually accurate. Okay, so there's that one.
And what's the title of that one again, Loretta?
That one it's just Garibaldi and Kelp, just boring. All right, now we're going to go a different direction. Okay, here's another one of my fun little title pieces. We're going to the hardware store with this one. Okay, I'm just going to have to tell you the title on this one. Cord on blue. Cord on blue. Oh, I know. It was one of those I had to do it. Where's the check? Here's the back. What this piece is, it's aluminum flashing from the hardware store. I cut it into strips. It's really nice because you can bend it and shape it however you want. Then I just glued, there's my handmade fabric. This solid blue is a piece of ultra suede, and I just glued all that on. And then on the back, you can see I just kind of stitched everything together.
So like an Elmer's glue will stick on that aluminum?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's probably what I used. So that was just kind of a fun little piece. I'll show you a bigger one. Now not remember what I ended up calling this one. This is, I'm going to show you the back. Metal bars from the hardware store. This ring, it's actually a piece of, it's not wood, it's like a press board from the floral department at Michael's. It's for making a wreath. This is just a piece of very, very heavy wire. This underneath of, you can probably see it best from here, this is my handmade fabric sewn onto window screen, aluminum window screen. So I made this first. I put this on top of the window screen, and then I sewed it again onto the screen. So that's how I get all of the squishy, and I can bend it and shape it however I want. This stuff here, this is a piece of mat board, so it's just something stiff, and then it just gets all glued together. So it's just a lot of different materials that I put together, and I do a lot of thinking outside the box. Just how am I going to make this work? And I have an engineering background, so I'm a problem solver already. So I just sit there and it's like I want to do. I have this. This is what I have in my mind. How do I get from this to the finished thing? What do I use? And so I look at a lot of different parts and pieces, and where did they go? Oh, here we go. So this is just an example. I have not used these yet. Any ideas what these are?
Yes.
That's exactly what these are. My mother takes them out of her bras because she doesn't like them. But they're really cool because the ends are already covered with like a vinyl to keep them from poking you. So it's an interesting shape. It doesn't have a lot of give to it. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I have a pile of them, but these could be something really interesting. Don't know yet.
Burn the bra.
Save the wire.
Save the wire.
Exactly.
I have a lot of stuff like that where it's like, what am I going to do with this? How do I use it? Where can I put it? Here's another little thing. This is not finished yet. What's inside of this is copper tubing because it bends really easily. Although it's a little hard to get the very tight curve to it, that's the hardest part, but the rest of it's fairly easy to do. And then I just take batting and I wrap and wrap and wrap, and then I take fabric and I wrap, and then I'll make a little thin piece of this and I'll wrap that around, and then I'll have a little truffle cloth. So there's a lot of stuff that I get from the hardware store. Okay, we're going to go into something a little different now.
That's fun.
Yeah. Keeping with my music theme, yes, this actually plays. What this is, it's these tubes that are called Boomwhackers, and they sell them in a set, and they're for kids to learn how to play music. And so they're all tuned and ready to go, and so all I did was I made my handmade fabric, covered it, and I made the whole stand that it goes into, and bought the mallets, and it's just hangs on the wall and it's ready to play. Isn't that fun? So you can see it's the same with that.
And did you give it a creative name?
Yes, we did. This one is called Chromatic Scale. Yes, actually the name came before the piece did. This is another one of those.
So do you just keep a running list of titles? Inspiration, so when you need to just...
Not really. No, I have, the title comes and it's like, oh, I have to make that piece. I go make it and then move on to the next one. So not really. Okay, what's next? Okay, more music. All right, this has a lot going on too. This is a quilt. This is all, remember the collage that I showed you earlier? That is what all of this is. I made the collage, and no, this is not a real guitar that I covered. I actually made the entire guitar as well. So if you look at the inside, you can see there's actually fabric on the inside. See that? Yeah. So you could do that with a real guitar. And it does have real strings on it. Hi, come on in. That's okay. Hi, glad you could make it.
We are too, thank you.
Look at this, some of the good stuff. We've got the more good stuff coming. So anyway, what this is, it kind of sounds like a real guitar, but not quite. What's underneath, oh my goodness, we've got lots of people coming in. Hello, hello, welcome.
Sorry, we don't even have a pass.
Did you get lost?
We were on a dosage tour.
Ah, okay, fun. Well, welcome. We are talking about quilts and going to the next dimension with our quilts. And are any of you guys quilters? Oh, good. Okay, excellent. I am an art quilter, and so I've been talking a lot about doing, going from the flat to the dimensional, and so I'm just starting to get into the more dimensional stuff right now. So that is what this is. This is one of my dimensional pieces, and it is all collage. So this is actually a quilt, and I, made all the collage fabric, glued it onto a guitar that I made. This is not a real guitar. It does have real strings, it has real tuning pegs, and it does play. It just sounds really, really bad. So I'm going to show you what I used to make that. This is foam core. It's used a lot for mounting your artwork, and it's pretty sturdy. I mean, it'll crack, but it doesn't crack where you want it or bend where you want it. So the way that I get it to shape like that, I already cut it for you, but okay, so there's a bunch of score lines, and now I can do a curve. So that is how I did the entire curve for the guitar. So all of this area, cut it one way, cut it the other way, and then I got this real nice curve. So the guitar, Ashley, hi, come on in. Oh, some more people. Yay, come on. Hello, hello.
So when you say you collage it, do you use glue where directly on that correspondence?
Yes, I glue onto the foam core with the collage fabric.
Okay.
Yeah. And before I forget, and if you guys want to just go ahead and write this down, I have a special web page set up, and I have a bunch of links to both of my websites and to, I have 3 Kindle books right now, but specifically one on needle felting that's free for this weekend if you're interested in downloading it. I'd appreciate that. Get me up in the rankings more. So
how do we upload it? Where do we go?
go to theshyartist.com/Muzeo, M-U-Z-E-O.
And there's nothing shy about you.
I have been a very introverted person for all of my life. It has taken having cameras in my face multiple times to get me to be able to do this kind of thing, and it's taken me writing a lot of books on, overcoming your shyness as an artist to be able to be in front of you today. So, yeah. Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to show you another similar one. So this one, that's called Heartstrings.
That is so cool.
And yes, I do allow pictures. Yeah, but if you do post any of your photos online, I just appreciate putting my name on them.
So you don't have like a hashtag or anything?
Pardon?
So you don't hashtag?
No, I don't. So this was made the same way as the guitar. And this one, however, is covered with the handmade fabric that I make like this. And I may as well just show you how I make that now. Where is it? Okay, where did my, there it is. So this is all made from bits of yarn. And the way I do it, this is the first, roughly the first step in the process. This is a water-soluble stabilizer. The brand I happen to use is Soluble, which is available at Joann's, so it's easy to get. And I just take 2 layers of it. I sandwich the bits of yarn in between, and then I just pin it just to keep everything in place until I start doing the stitching. This is partially stitched. I ran out of thread when I was working on this one, so that's where it stopped. But once I get enough thread to hold everything together, this is going to get soaked in water. And all of this plasticky stuff is going to disappear, and then this is what you're left with. And so you get this just nice, soft, you know, depending on the yarns that you use. I tend to use the softer yarns. Actually, here.
And do they call that felting, Loretta?
No. This is not felting.
What is the difference?
I will show you felting
Okay.
later.
Okay.
You can go ahead and pass that around. So that's how I make a lot of my handmade fabrics, and that's what this is. This one, however, you see how it kind of has a shimmer to it? There's actually a red lame in the background that gives the shimmer. So I sew this on top of the shimmery fabric to get just that little hint of the background.
And that adds more.
And then add some more dimension to it. And so, and then you can see on the back, I just covered it so you don't see all the foam core and all the
Very
stuff.
cool.
So.
But you have the shimmer in here. How does the shimmer get in?
The shimmer, because I took a.
Can I get a picture of the back? Because you're
Sure.
teaching me how to do that with doing my canvases with my silk, because I've not done them yet. And part of it is learning how to do the back too, because it looks like you do it really well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The shimmer in that is from a piece of probably lame that I just cut into thin strips and added.
That's beautiful.
Loretta, could you, when you're doing your sandwich with Solvay, could you put the lame in between?
Yes,
Is that
absolutely.
where you do it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
You don't like have to do it at the end?
No, I do, it just depends on the look that I'm trying to get. Sometimes I'll put it in with, sometimes I'll put it in after and put it behind. It just depends on what I'm trying to get the finished product to look like.
It's hard to see what you're stitching when you're in the sandwich of the Solvay, because you don't get
You don't see it, no. You have to know where you've already been, yeah.
So when you dissolve it and take the Solvay off,
Mhm.
does it really rinse away that well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. When that goes around, you'll feel it.
And then do you adjust the stitching after you look at it and see if it needs more?
Usually not, because I've done it enough that I know
The
how
texture.
much I need to do. Okay, so moving on. Now we're really getting into dimension. This is the same stuff, same exact thing. The only difference here is I had put it onto a very, this was a, what did I tell you this was? It's a mesh. Speaker. It's a speaker mesh. Couldn't think of the word. So it's really, really, really stiff, but we can do that with it.
Oh,
And
wow.
it just pops right back. Yeah, I know, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So it's not gonna break. So it's actually four separate pieces, so just 4 of the exact, well, as close as I could get. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but it's close enough. and then I just stitched it all together.
No wires?
There's no wire in this. I put a wood base on it, and I just covered the wood base with some satin, and then I glued it down onto there. So it's made exactly the same way. There's another kind of, here it is. There's another mesh that they sell at the craft store that they're doing cross stitch purses out of this stuff. It's not quite as stiff as what I use, but this is the basic idea, so you can see, it's this kind of stuff. And it's kind of fun to work with because you can do a lot of different things with it, and it's easier. This is easier to sew on than the aluminum window screen stuff is, because if you're going to sew on aluminum or any other metal, which yes you can do, you want to put masking tape around the edges. Actually, let me show you. You guys didn't see this. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Since you guys came in too late for this one, this is actually window screening right here. So it's the same handmade fabric, and then I just put it onto the aluminum screening, and you can see how I can bend it and shape it and do whatever I want with it. And then a lot of hardware store stuff, metal and other things to put it all together with. So, okay, so moving on. We have the next piece. Again, this is the handmade fabric, and it's done as a sculpture. And yes, there is wire in this, and see what that is?
Oh, there we go.
That's a rose petal. So I just didn't, I wasn't sure how many I was going to need, so I just made a whole bunch of them, and then I ended up not needing these other two. So this, what I did, wait a second, it's going to fall over. There we go, got it? So what I did is, after I finished doing all of the stitching here, I put a piece of wire all the way around the perimeter, and then satin stitched the wire down. Then I took the stabilizer out. Then I washed the stabilizer after I put the wire in, because if you do it after you've washed it, then it's very floppy and the wire doesn't stay where you want it to. Yes?
Is the wire inside the plastic?
The wire is, no, I put the wire on the top. Yeah.
So when you say you put the wire on the top, you literally lay it
I
on the top,
lay it on top,
like
right along the edge of the petal, or the leaf, or the whatever it is that I'm trying to shape. And then, oops, oh, sorry. So you can actually, you can bend, you can shape. So I actually was looking at I had a silk rose next to me while I was working on this, so that I could do, see the little, how a rose petal goes in on the edge, and it just kind of curls on one edge. And so I would curl it or bend it or whatever that it needed, and that's what you get. Isn't that fun? Okay, so I think we are at the, I got one more thing. Oh, actually, you guys missed this, I think you guys will appreciate this one. No,
That's such a.
No, she's not giving us any treats.
Great idea.
Yes.
Oh, that was a cool idea.
That is such a clever idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I did, I took several boxes, I glued them all together, and then cut off the end, and then labeled, and then I have.
Do you have to find out exactly the box? How do you know that box fits the size of the?
I didn't, I just tried it.
That's the better part. You get to eat the candy.
Yeah, and then she had fun eating.
Oh, absolutely.
Searching the chocolate first.
Absolutely. It's also good for pencils, or to make brushes, or any, long sort of things.
that came in later, you might want to tell them about the February 14th, what you're
Oh,
going to be
yeah,
teaching.
absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So February 14th, I'm gonna be giving a workshop, and you'll actually be making, not this large, we're gonna be doing a smaller version of collage. So, would that be held here?
Yes, from 11 to 1.
How much is the
It's
workshop?
free.
No?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's 30, it's 30 for the class,
Plus-
and then 15 for
the materials.
materials.
Yeah.
And from when to when?
Are we,
11 to 1.
are we doing or sewing?
So Loretta has suggested
Hand
sewing.
sewing?
Yeah, no machine sewing.
Oh, machines.
Yeah, that's, I do not hand sew anything if I can help it. I don't have time, I make too much stuff. There's no way I could make everything that I do if I was hand sewing it. Plus, most of what I do, it's so thick, or it's so heavy, or it's metallic, or whatever, and there's no way I could hand sew a lot of it.
So it's 11 to 1, and I do recommend reservations if you are able to do that.
This is a work in progress that I am really not sure what I'm gonna do with yet, but I just wanted to show it to you, because this is something I kind of skipped over. Another way to get dimension, and I could have done it with this piece, there's a product called Timtex. It's a, where did I put it? Here it is. Timtex or Peltex, there's different brands. It's a very, very stiff, heavy interfacing. If you've ever seen those fabric bowls that were popular a few years ago, that's what was used for this. I like working with it because you can sew on it and it's nice and stiff and you can do things with it. And I could have made this with it, but I didn't want to. I wanted it to be more see-through. But what I did with it here is these are going to be, I have a whole bunch of these, they're going to be tree trunks. And I used the Timtex on the back. It's kind of sort of felted, but not really. It's kind of a hybrid. I did some sort of felting on it, but I machine stitched it as well. So I'm thinking Forest Through the Trees is going to be the title, I'm not sure. This is the piece that I used to make the leaves, so it's partially felted, but it's also sewn onto a piece of fabric. And then I'll show you the result. So I've got kind of so there's a chunk of it.
So when you say that's kind of felted, and that is not, what's the difference?
The difference is, if you're gonna felt something, you're gonna start with roving, which is completely not spun. It is,
Like felt?
well, I will show you what roving looks like, because I actually brought some with me. And actually, let me
I'd just like to know the difference between the two, because I don't do either.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, let me get this out of the way first, and then I'm just gonna go into the last piece, because it goes right into the felting.
Love that rose.
Yeah.
There's actually a story behind that, Rose. Would you like to hear the story?
Yes.
It's kind of a sad story, actually.
No, don't tell us.
Well, I will tell you the story. A very dear friend of mine, his wife passed away. And we went down to Dana Point and got on one of the whale watching boats, and we went off in the ocean, and we put out her ashes and had a little ceremony. It was really, really pretty. The next day, okay, the box of her ashes had a red rose on it, single red rose. The next day, he was walking on the beach in Dana Point. Walking along, we saw something in the sand. We walked towards it. It was a rose, a single red rose with the ribbon. It was that rose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's where that rose came from.
Oh.
Yeah, that was to commemorate that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. We are at the last piece. This piece is pretty much every single technique that I do. It's felted, it's quilted, it's sewn, it's crocheted, it's everything.
Wow.
So
So
cool.
Wow.
seascape.
Okay.
Coral reef.
Yeah, I wrote like coral.
Garibaldi and the coral reef.
Coral reef. How long it takes you?
Oh, my
This
word.
was 6 months worth of work. Literally, every day. Yeah, this was a huge undertaking. It was sitting in my kitchen for quite a while. What's underneath it, there's a big piece of plywood on the back. On top of the plywood, and I do have pictures on my website of what it looks like underneath and how I made it. Underneath is a bunch of trash. Literally, it's trash pieces of styrofoam and plastic bags from the grocery store that I just kind of recycled. Yeah. And then on top of it is the foam in a can insulation that you get from the hardware store, and I just squirted that all over everything, let it, do its thing, and just make all the lumps and bumps and crevices and cracks. And then I started making fabric. So I made just bunches of this kind of stuff. So,
So is that felt?
So some of it's felt.
Okay.
Some of this is felt. This is a piece of the felt here. There's handmade fabric here. Now these guys are all needle felted. I don't know if any of you have ever done any needle felting and understand how complex this is. This right here alone represents 120 hours worth of work.
Oh,
Please tell me you won an award for that.
so cool.
And you can see, this is the reason it took so long, is because I added all of the suckers. Yeah, every single last sucker is on.
Before you shrank.
No, this is needle felted, so it is not shrunk. No. I'm actually in the process of writing a little children's book that's going to be based on this. And the Garibaldi is going to be the main character. He's going to be the grumpy old whatever. So this guy comes out too, and there's actually it's a little goes through. That was unintentional. It just kind of happened that way. So this is actually, there's a lot going on from both a biological standpoint and from quilting fiber art standpoint. Because I actually, I have a science engineering background, and so I do a lot of very realistic. So this is all representative of what you would find off of the coast of Southern California specifically. And I was actually going for shiprock out of Catalina, where a lot of divers go to. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. So this is the Pacific octopus, the Garibaldi, skatefish in California, the moray eel. These are Oregonian fans. The yellow things, those are called zoantids. There's nudibranchs, and of course all the starfish and
That is just so
So is he made from felt?
Yes, he is made from felt.
1,000 hours?
120.
120 hours.
120 hours.
Wow.
So this is what
Wow.
the roving looks like before you turn it into something. And you can see how soft that is. Yeah.
So is that what he was made from?
This is what the octopus started as. It's just very, very fine. Now this is what you take. And I am not a spinner, but if I were to take this and start twisting it, it would become yarn. And so you just start twisting and pulling and twisting and pulling and twisting and pulling, and you get yarn. I don't do that. I felt. I'm more insane than the spinners are. So that's how those guys got made.
How did you make the coral?
These are wire that one's coming out. It's actually just a bunch of wire, and I sat on the couch in front of the TV, and I went like that all over, just kept adding more bits of wire, until I got it the size I wanted. You can see this one ended up a little bit floppy. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of time.
A lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of fun.
So will you take it to children's schools and talk about your book and that when you get
Perfect.
You know, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Really need to.
Yeah, I have actually been requested
Yeah.
to visit some
Yeah.
schools with this
Yeah.
piece, because
Yeah,
it just has so much interesting stuff
And then
going on.
and then you sign the books and you sell.
Sell.
Oh,
That'd be cool.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea, I like
Parents,
it.
because kids don't have money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, they do, they come with their quarters or their dimes or their pennies. or
No, they
whatever.
tell them ahead of time that
Oh,
she's
you
coming,
do?
and then the parents do send out
At the
money.
top, at the top,
Serious.
at the top, further up.
This guy?
Down,
they-
that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, let me show you that. Okay. Again, this is looking at all kinds of interesting materials. It's just so
It is.
So-
Oh, that's cool too. What is that?
This, these are the barnacles.
Oh,
This was a $30 skein of yarn.
there you go.
But
Oh.
what I did is I just took a little chunk of it,
There you go.
cut it off,
And glued it.
and glued it, and you've got a barnacle.
Cute.
But, you know, that's the kind of thing that I go looking for. You know, I don't look at things in the normal way. I look at, you know, what can I do? I mean, this is just such a cool yarn, because it's, you know, the tips of it are this different color. And they had a purple one, I bought the purple one too. So, you know, things like that. Things like this. Okay, this was a really cool fabric, and I had no idea what I was gonna do with it, but see, it's got this kind of,
I love it. It's very beautiful.
it's iridescent.
Almost looks like
There it is.
It kind of does, but it's kind of this lightweight netting, and just kind of, I'm assuming it was in the bridal department, I can't remember, but, it was just so cool, I had to buy some, and I only bought a yard, I wish I bought more. But down here, there's little new rings, right there. That's how those guys were made. There's another one right here too.
Yeah.
So it, you know, it's just oddball things. The sea urchins here, those are pipe cleaners. This green stuff was a piece of fur that I found at Joann's. It was just perfect. It had the black background with the green on top. Here's the purple barnacles. The zoanthids, these guys here, those I felted the bottom and then found yellow yarn to match the felted yarn and, you know, shoved them in. This stuff here, this kind of curly kinky stuff, the upholstery department, the trim, that's what that is. This yellow stuff, same thing. It was just fuzzy and perfect. So, you know, I do a lot of outside of the box thinking where it's like, is that gonna work for what I'm trying to do? And a lot of the times I end up at Home Depot literally wandering the aisles. And, you know, I go in there and, you know, the guys are like, can I help you find something? And I'm like, well, I'm making a kelp plant, and they go away scratching their heads. And I walk down the next aisle, and then the next guy asks me, and we go through the same thing. So, anyway, that is my presentation. Any more questions?
How do you organize all your stuff so you can find things when you're looking?
Oh, God, I don't. I'm so bad.
You have boxes and boxes and boxes.
I have boxes and boxes. Most of it is up here as to where it is. The problem is I keep moving things around and shifting things, and then it's like, well, it used to be over there. Oh, where did I put it now? You know, most of my stuff, it depends on what it is, but when I start a project, I try and at least keep all the project things together. You know, that way, you know, I can get at them when I need them. But when I'm kind of thinking about what I'm trying to do and trying to make something work, then I just start going through the drawers, going through the boxes. It's like, well, that, I don't need that, I don't need that. Ooh, that might work, pull it out, put it, you know, in the pile, and then if it works, then I use it, and if not, it goes someplace else.
So when you wrap these to take them here, do you have them wrapped in a specific order with a title on them? Or how do you, when you get it here, how do you load it and unload it? So do you have some method to the madness?
I kind of put everything in some semblance of order.
In a bag, with a big bag?
Yeah, I have big bags. And,
Okay.
yeah, not everything fits in bags because I have a lot of oddballs sort of stuff, so, yeah. Wow. And actually, there's something I should show you guys because you missed the beginning, and I think you guys might appreciate this one.
Oh my gosh, that's just so.
Yeah. This is a thread painting.
She had stuff out.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So any other questions or anything you want to see that,
When did you see that?
when you are?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, so you want to see behind? Oh, the dragon. Oh, here, I'll show you the other dragon.
Yes. Yes, I am.
This was my entry into the Fairfield Fashion Show, now the Bermina Fashion Show, but I did not get accepted.
Oh, serious?
Oh, thanks, bye.
Did they tell you?
No, they never tell you things like that. You just get the skinny letter that says, thank you for your submission. Yeah. So I tried. I'm not much into doing clothing. I really prefer the art quilting, so, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you for accepting our late.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I just love what you just said. The rest of I've been sewing for 40. I've been doing quilting since 1978, and I've been doing shows for 24 years.
So the last year and a whole month of basically you have to be able to sew?
Yes.
Okay.
Just thought I'd do that.
Thank you very much.
To be able to sew.
And we're gonna talk about.
I'm gonna copy